The Crimean Bridge has been reopened for passage after a massive truck explosion on Saturday morning. Cars and buses have already started moving, with the railway section also open for cargo and passenger trains. Here are the latest pictures. Cars are now heading in both directions, accompanied by traffic police. Russian officials say a successful test run showed the bridge is safe for use, although one section of the crossing, the most heavily damaged, remains closed. All vehicles and trains are being carefully inspected before entering the bridge. Here's the surveillance footage of the blast. The Russian Anti-Terror Committee says 3 people died in the explosion. The exact cause of the detonation is under investigation. The attack destroyed 2 sections of roadway and set a nearby fuel cargo train on fire. One Chinese official warned that sabotage of critical infrastructure could spark a dangerous pattern.
The explosion on Crimean Bridge, less than a month after Nord Stream sabotage, opens Pandora's box of destroying key infrastructure. And once it becomes new normal, the whole world will face rising security threats.
Meanwhile, Western media outlets have been celebrating the deadly bombing of the Crimean Bridge. The Daily Mail even called it a birthday present for Vladimir Putin, who turned 70 on the eve of the attack on what's been described as his prized bridge. Some headlines say the crossing is a symbol of so-called Russian occupation and called the bombing a blow to Putin's war effort. The Slavic police went even further, sarcastically comparing the attack to the results of the recent referendums that saw 4 new regions join Russia, while UK tabloid The Sun and some Ukrainian media suggest Kiev's special forces were directly responsible for the bombing. Russia says the reaction reveals the terrorist nature of the Kiev regime and its NATO partners.
The reaction of the Kiev regime to the destruction of civilian infrastructure reveals its terrorist nature. Assassinations, acts of sabotage, destruction, provocations and setups. That is the logic that now binds NATO regimes as partners in crime.
They're really keen to emphasize that this is a blow for Russia, that this is a devastating tragedy for Vladimir Putin, and what a great present just to, twist the knife a little bit more. But again, even though no one is confirming that Ukraine was behind it, we're seeing some countries, in particular in Europe, not only alluding to the fact that it was indeed Ukraine, but they're also applauding them for it.
I believe this target has been around for a very long time. Estonia certainly welcomes this and congratulates the Ukrainian Special Operations units who are expected to be behind this operation. It's a balm for the soul, especially given yesterday was Putin's birthday. It's great he received such gift. I wish him more of such gifts.
Can you imagine if something like this happened in the United States or in Israel or in any other country, in fact, and then you would hear statements like that? It's despicable, really, especially when we know that 3 people died, people lost their lives. And this is what I mean when Russia is saying that this reaction coming from Ukraine and also those who are supporting it abroad, this shows the toxicity of Kiev's regime and the toxicity of the West, and also the terrorist nature of Kiev's regime. The latest, the photos that we're seeing emerging from Ukraine are people actually taking selfies in front of a banner. We can see it right now, a banner that they've put up of the explosions on the bridge. And what's interesting is how fast they managed to get that banner up there. But also, we're now seeing reports online that the photo of this banner was actually circulating back in September. Of course, we know that the bridge was a target all along. There's no secret to that. They would love to blow it up because, of course, it's linking Russia to Crimea. So, again, here we saw that the second largest bank in Ukraine is already issuing debit cards featuring the collapsed bridge. So there's happiness all around that this happened. Let's not forget that 3 people died. But again, this doesn't concern them. They're tweeting things like, let's start by taking a look at some of the tweets we saw coming out as early as this morning. First of all, we have the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. Here he is saying, "Good morning, Ukraine," and a side-by-side of the bridge on fire and Marilyn Monroe singing, "Happy birthday, Mr. President," of course, alluding to the fact that this is a great gift for Vladimir Putin's 70th birthday. And then we had the Ukraine's security service that tweeted, the bridge is burning well, greetings from Ukraine's armed forces, and that today is a great occasion. And we heard from Zelensky's presidential advisor this summer. He said that the bridge itself is a target and will be a target, and they will try to destroy it as soon as they could.
We don't care about the Crimean Bridge. Once we've received the necessary technical options, it will become a target for us. There is nothing to discuss. We don't have an opportunity yet, but once we get it, we'll target it.
And it seems that they found the opportunity and the way to do it, and they did just that, even though now, again, they're saying that somehow Russia did it and this somehow helps us. I don't know in what way, shape, or form this would help Russia. But again, those are the latest claims from Kiev.
Following an initial outburst of praise for the attack, Ukraine's presidential advisor put a different twist on the story hours later, suggesting the incident was staged as part of a power struggle between Russia's defense ministry and the FSB. However, the Washington Post has revealed the Ukrainian government official admitted that Kiev's special services were behind the bombing. Earlier, journalist Thomas Roper told my colleague Nikki Aaron that it's ridiculous to see Ukrainian officials repeatedly accusing Russia of bombing its own territory.
Russia always attacks itself. They are bombing Donetsk, they are bombing the nuclear power plant, they destroyed Nord Stream 2, and now the bridge. This is the normal Kiev propaganda. You can look at history. Every time when in a conflict something like this happens, it's the enemy who did it and trying to blame somebody else. It's obvious that Russia wouldn't blow the bridge. It needs himself for supporting the Crimea region.
Do you think it's possible that the US was also aware of plans to bomb the Crimean Bridge, considering that Ukrainian officials have called it a legitimate target for months now?
Well, I think they are not only, they did not only know, I think they are involved. We know, for example, that the US has to confirm each target which is hit by HIMARS rockets. We know that the US and the Brits are planning offenses of the Ukrainian army together with the Ukrainians. Such an act of whatever terror or war, how you call it, would not have been done by Kiev without support or at least knowledge of the Western supporters.
A former Ukrainian prime minister has called for acts of sabotage in Moscow after he praised the bombing of the Crimean Bridge.
I've seen in the Ukrainian media that Ukrainian media reported that this is the security service of Ukraine. I don't know whether it's true or no, but what I am sure about, that this bridge has to be completely undermined, collapsed, and damaged. I would be delighted if those who committed this kind of rightful, I would say, act of sabotage, they will do the same in Russia, I mean in Moscow.
So Ukrainian military intelligence organized the Crimean Bridge bombing. That is according to Russia's Federal Security Service. The FSB says 8 people have been arrested in connection with the terror attack. The agency also states that explosives were hidden in a truck carrying rolls of plastic sheeting that's typically used in the construction industry.
The explosive device was camouflaged inside rolls of polyethylene construction sheeting material on 22 pallets with a total weight of 22,770 kilograms, and in early August this year was sent from the seaport of Odessa to the Bulgarian city of Ruse.
Well, the main point was that this terrorist attack was orchestrated by Ukraine's spy chief, Kirill Budanov, with the help of Russian, Ukrainian, and Armenian citizens. As we heard, 8 of them have been detained so far. We're still on the lookout for the remaining 4. Now, Ukraine's intelligence services oversaw the entire transportation, and they oversaw the bomb transportation. Let's have a look at the map they took. We're now seeing pictures of those detained, but let's switch it up and look at the route that the truck took. So there we have it. It started off in the seaport of Odessa, then it moved into Bulgaria, a NATO country, I might add. Then it moved on to Georgia, Armenia, through some Russian regions, and then it made its way onto the Crimean Bridge. Now, as we know, as a result of that, 4 people lost their lives. Ukrainians and Ukrainian officials were ecstatic about that. We saw Ukrainian citizens taking selfies next to a banner of the bridge that was collapsed. And we saw officials pretty much straightforward saying that what a great achievement this is and what a great blow this is for Vladimir Putin. Now, even though they were saying all of this, at some point, they even accused Russia of blowing up its own bridge, which made no sense whatsoever. But of course, this would go along with the Western narrative. We also saw, of course, how the officials, they didn't take official responsibility for this terrorist attack, but they were so happy about it that they were alluding to the fact that this is a great achievement for them. And even this morning, as early as this morning, once again, they reminded us that this is very helpful for them, and this is something that was on their agenda for a very long time. Let's take a listen.
Obviously, there was the blast which destroyed half of it. And so whoever was responsible for that, it's very helpful for Ukraine. We've been telling from the very beginning that this breach we will try to destroy as soon as we will be able to do so.
So we keep hearing it from them, how helpful this would be for them, and that they've been planning this all along. Yet somehow, even though it makes absolutely no sense for any reason, that it was Russia that blew up its own bridge. Now, again, we heard today from the press service of Ukraine's military intelligence, and they released a tweet where they're saying that, well, the FSB and Russia's investigative committee, we all know that they are fake structures and that their findings are absolute nonsense. So this plays along into their theory that they have nothing to do with it and that it is probably Russia who did it itself. And the reason why they're so confident in dismissing these structures and dismissing the findings, it's because they are getting support from Western countries, from European countries, who are not only not condemning this terrorist attack, but they're also encouraging it, they're supporting it, they're applauding this attack. Some of them are even calling for more such attacks on Russian soil.
The events of the last days have once again demonstrated the blatant double standards of the collective West. The litmus test was the terrorist act committed by the Ukrainian Special Services on the Crimean Bridge. A cynical attack on an object of critical civilian infrastructure. In fact, the missions of Germany, Latvia and Lithuania to the OSCE justified the terrorist attack on the Crimean Bridge.
So I guess this is why Ukrainian officials feel so confident in dismissing the findings, in encouraging more attacks on Russian soil. But today, what we know is that 8 out of the 12 suspects involved in this terrorist attack on the Crimean Bridge have been detained. They're looking for the 4 remaining ones, and these are the findings. And this is the latest on the terrorist attack in the Crimean